everybody. Welcome back to State of Scrims. I think this is episode 69 because I said it last time and it
That's
was
correct,
wrong.
Dean. That's
So
correct.
60. Oh, I forgot. I said I was going to show up naked. I'm actually not wearing any clothes under here. That was what I said I would do, right? I'm
That is what you said you would
right.
do.
I think I said the opposite, but naked under the waist, guys. Trust. Anyway, I'm joined here by Gruer, my co-host for this entire season. We had an Apari episode, but Gruer was still here, luckily. And he is one of the finalists for the co-host
Semi-finalists.
survey. Oh no, I'm leaking. We're just gonna go right to it.
Oh,
I don't
let's go.
I don't
Let's
care. We'll
go.
just do this first because it's fun. The co-host. Oh, this is wrong. This is all wrong. All wrong. Co-host final matchup: Flashbang Mason versus Gruer and Eiffel. Boom. Get your votes in.
Banger.
I'll post it after the episode because I'm lazy. If you want to know finalists for the Dean one, it's Halloween Fizz and Go Kart Dean, unsurprisingly. I think all of those were huge margins, and we'll hit the sandwich real quick. Ooh, if it loads. This is down to the semifinals. It's cheesesteak versus hot chicken sandwich and tacos versus fish sandwich. I think all of these are deserving winners if they end up doing it. Very happy to see s'mores and grilled cheese get
Nah,
eliminated.
fish sandwich just knocked out s'mores.
Yes, but a good fish sandwich is incredible. I'm gonna fly you out here, and we're gonna go to the beach, and we're gonna eat great fish.
Okay, deal.
No, like solid commitment on the date that's happening, but if we ever work that out, I'm down. And I don't know if
I'm
I'm
down.
paying for the full flight. It really depends.
You were just talking about having stacks of cash, so
I said that ironically. We'll see. Um, anyway, we are a little behind on game logging, so I am going to be doing that while Gruer and me, half paying attention, runs down all the series we haven't covered, which is a lot, I think.
yeah,
This last
quite
one
a
we
few,
talked
but
about
they've been
on
good ones.
the podcast. Do you remember what the last one we covered was?
Oh, let me pull them up myself, and I can probably tell you.
Was it Snarkify and Alberts? Did we cover that one, or was it before that?
I I don't know if we
That
did
might have
start to
been.
find
I think
out.
that was the first one because I think we covered you guys versus SKT.
Yes, we definitely did.
Okay. Okay, and then let me see if there's a way that I can get everything showing up the way I need it to. Stats. There we go. Okay. Cool. And then let me move this here, and then I will be on logging game duty. And there's 7 I gotta get through, so it'll take me a minute.
All right.
Okay, I'm opening up all the
Um,
drafts on the wrong tab, so sorry. And then let me actually pull this up one more time. And it is, there we go. Cool.
We're in.
So this one, there was a 3-gamer, right? I feel like this one was a
Yes, it
banger
was.
because we finally
It
got to
was.
see the Canuck Varus top come through, and God, let me tell you, what a mistake. Let's not do that one again, team.
Yeah.
But
It kind of explained why it had been getting banned. I mean, a lot of the other teams just weren't going to let him have it. I think he had shown it maybe in like a sign-ups game, so like people knew that it was there, so it was getting banned. They chose to let it through, in favor of banning, a couple other strong champions, and then they went with the Maokai into it, which I haven't played against a ton of Varus top, but I think most of the time you'd want to play something that's not a tank into it, because I think it just kind of shreds tanks with the percent health. But overall, like a pretty solid game one, especially for the bot lane, the side lanes of Albert's Inferno. Mid lane, a little bit rough. I mean, Sandy did work in that game, despite being, into Lysandra. Still did a ton on the Akali, so it was still like a close competitive game.
okay, before we just write off Sandy having a great game, what I did not expect about the Varus was for Sandy to get solo killed in the 1v1 in that matchup like 3 times in a row. That like blew my mind. I did not see that one coming. I think definitely credit to Canuck there, but I think at some point you got to realize you're losing this 1v1. You got to stop taking it. But besides that, I do think he had a really good game. So that wasn't like a complete diss, but just something fun.
Yeah. No, the power of the burst that champion has with that style is pretty insane. But yeah, I mean that was pretty much the story of game one, and then in game two they bounced back like extremely nicely. I mean it really wasn't close. Like Canuck had just had a monster game one, Game two, I believe they blind picked the Ornn for Kage, so they went for a similar style to Maokai. I mean, it's like a tank, you're fine, just weak side and top lane. But this time they tried counterpicking with the Trundle. And I feel like that's a counterpick, Dean, that we have seen in this server
Yeah.
attempt to be used for seasons
Yeah.
after seasons,
I
even
don't,
all the way back to the
I
first season
might
I
be
played.
guilty of this. Maybe
I
not.
think it's a fake counter, Dean. I think it's a fake counter. Like it's not enough of a counter to like
Okay.
win the game
I
through.
think it might be a better counter if your only engage isn't Jarvan 4 and like fucking Aurora's immobile. Ornn can break the Jarvan 4 cage. You're going for a dive comp. You just need like a tank engage on this team. Like something that can dive with the team because it sets up so well for Echo, for Jarvan, for Kai'Sa. You have a team composition that just wants to go in and get shit done. And then you pick Trundle who like just wants to split push and not interact with the rest of the game. I
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
know.
it was like the selfish, selfish not the right word, but I mean it was like trying to pick what I guess
Not
they believed was like the best counter pick for the matchup versus
Yeah,
like
I mean,
team
I wouldn't even say if
composition.
it's like selfish because I don't think he was like greedy. I think he just wasn't paying
Yeah.
attention to like what the rest of the team wanted. I forget what it was, but I remember them hovering something this game before they locked in the trundle that was like way better. But I don't know. Someone would have
Well,
to go
I
back on the
think it's
VOD and
also
fact
worth
check
mentioning
me.
that I thought Hero
But
played an
so
exceptional
good,
game
so good.
on the Nocturne, and I think that also just really made the Trundle's life hard because he wasn't getting to just 1v1 the Ornn. He was getting tag teamed by the Nocturne as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think
And
that's
then of
part
course
of the
the
reason why the
Jinx too.
trundle's so
Yeah.
rough because you literally like see the nocturne, like you're not actually ever going to be able to split push because you're just going to get punished for it like over and over and over again, and that's exactly what happened in the game. I forget
Yeah,
if they ended up
yeah.
giving Hero MVP, but oh my god, it was so deserved if if they did.
Yeah, I
But
mean, but also to be fair, like I don't know if the Trundle got a fair shake because the rest of the map was like losing, so it's also easier to deal with like a split push mega threat if the rest of the map's not posing a ton of threat. And I just thought, Omar went for the Echo, had a rough time into the Aurora, and then I mean, Vetus and Lelouch just played one of their better games of the season. Just played really well.
yeah, for sure. And then into game 3, this one I feel like was the most exciting of all of them, but it ended up just kind of being the victor show, which is never really fun to watch. You just see the storm get really big and kill everybody, and I don't know. That's kind of all that happens there. But if you have a different read on this game, I definitely want to hear it.
I mean, this one was like a competitive game, I thought. Like, it was a fun one. Ultimately, I do think the victor kind of just went off in some of those later fights. But again, I think the whole team played pretty well. But this game also, like, I thought Inferno had a much better game in their loss than they did in the second game.
100%. Yes.
I thought Rift played a pretty nice game. I mean, Draco only had 2 deaths. Canuck had 7 deaths, but he was, like, getting impact done with that Volibear build that he's so threatening on. I mean, I thought Albert and Omar like had a pretty solid game. I mean, you got the Lilia for Albert, so if you get that, I feel like you're really confident. But they kind of had a pretty good team comp. It felt like to deal with it. You have the Vi to lock the Lilia down if needed, and then a lot of just damage and other CC that's easier to hit if someone's already stunned. So I just thought they played a really good game, and to me, this cemented Snarkify as like clearly one of the best teams. I already kind of thought they were,
Yeah,
but I know
I think
maybe
everyone
you and
kinda
other
thought they
people were
were.
kind of saying, we've only seen them play 2 games, we've only seen them play 3 games.
I was
They
just
hadn't
saying
played as
that for
many.
engagement bait. Let's be real. I think we
Well,
all
that's
do.
easy to say now, Dean, but they proved everybody wrong. I think that if there were any doubters.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it looks like the post game for Rift Sharks 1T wasn't even sent, so we might have a pause. Actually, I'll log the NYMB and QC ones. The Rift Sharks ones I remember quite well. So anyway, let's go forward to Rift Sharks versus Snarkify Rebellion, which I think if that previous series that we just discussed didn't cement it, this one obviously did.
Yeah.
I feel like the first game was one of the most one-sided games we've seen all season. Obviously, they did a good job of denying the Ori Nocturne with the Oriana ban. And given Hero's performance on the Nocturne in the previous series, I feel like that was definitely just like pick ban.
Yeah.
Knowing that both junglers were really strong on it. Sandy whipped out the Echo counter pick, which I think some people really do like into Syndra. I don't think it panned out super well. And as you were saying, Vetus and Lelouch had a really good game in the last series. In this first game, they ended up going 0-16, which is kind of the opposite of it But if you have any other takes on the first game, I definitely want to hear them.
There were like two main takeaways for me from this game. First, they chose to ban the Orianna as Snarkify did, and I was actually wondering, watching the series or before this series, the Nocturne Orianna combo has been so prolific for Rift Sharks. They've just smashed people with it every time. Do you need both of them, or is one of them still going to be a problem? And this more than put that answer to bed. The Nocturne itself, with regardless of who it's playing, with Fishy on Nocturne is a problem. And also that champion's just looking
guys.
really strong this
Trust.
season.
No, that's not true. You should let us have it more often.
But the other thing that stood out to me is my two favorite champions in the mid lane in what's like a classic matchup in my opinion. And yeah, I do think the Echo counters Syndra. Like that's been the historic counter. I mean, all the way back to Bjergsen and Jensen playing that. Sandy had his moments. I mean, Sandy, I believe, got the solo kill first blood. Like started off the game extremely well, but then he made an unfortunate tower dive when he was already like winning in the HP battle and the farm battle. Tower dove, died, and at that point Giraffe never let go of the game. And I think that's the problem when you're playing against a player who's as strong as Giraffe. And Sandy can match this guy and has in games, but when you're playing against a player as strong as Giraffe, if you make like a really poor lane mistake like that where he died, lost his advantage, the Syndra got strong, Giraffe took really aggressive runes with Ignite, and just absolutely punished him after that. Rest of the team was winning, and so yeah, that game ended up being not as close as I think it could have been, because just looking at the two drafts, that game had me really excited.
Yeah, it is a bit unfortunate that it panned out that way. Obviously, not for us. We were happy. But moving into the next game, obviously it was 2 losses for Rift Sharks. Snarkify was able to do really well. I think there's definitely been a lot of criticism in our draft in the second game. Criticism I will not deny. I think we were a little high on it. I think if it's executed really well, I think it's really good. But the burden of execution on us is quite high because we fuck up at all in the early game. It's just cooked because we picked like a not 5 scaling champion because Karma's good, but she's not quite the same as other early game mid laners, so it's a little harder to play around. Chow got a huge lead in lane, but didn't end up getting any kills, which was a little unfortunate. It was really hard to actually get anything done with that. We did try, but it just didn't pan out the way it needed to. And I don't know. I feel like they countered the Zyrakan really, really well, and Lelouch had a ton of good plays around the map with the Nico, which was really disruptive, and I think it made it really hard for us to kind of force anything. A lot of really good ultimates. But anyway.
Yeah, I didn't love the draft, but I also don't think the draft was necessarily the issue. Like you said, it's kind of a little bit harder execution-wise than maybe some other drafts could be, but at the end of the day, like we've seen all these players play well on these champions before, I believe. Giraffe kind of comment in the chat, Dean, I'm reading, reminded me, he mentioned the crab incident. Yeah, that's kind of brought that back to my attention. Fishy went for like a pretty greedy crab, if I recall correctly. Yeah. And I think he ended up getting away maybe, but like it got both solo laners killed, and Giraffe got ran through the jungle by Sandy, and as soon as he fell behind, it was kind of like the previous game. Like both these players are just strong players, so if you give them the advantage, it's hard for them to throw it back to you. And then Sandy just kind of took over, and Karma couldn't really do anything. Bot lane played amazing for the side of Snarkify Rebellion. I thought Vetus and Lelouch both played like absolutely stellar games in this one. Like it really stood out to me, especially Lelouch on the Nico found some really nice CC in those team fights. I think Vetus maybe got the MVP this game, if I'm remembering correctly. Played really, really well, but yeah, overall just a really good bounce back, especially after how hard they'd lost game 1. It's nice when you see a team bounce back super hard in game 2.
Yeah, and then they continued to be really strong in the third game, I think. Again, like the last series we just looked at, the third game was the closest of this one and the most interesting. It did end up being a W for Snarkify again. I think MVP went over to Vetus, but Sandy's impact on the Galio was kind of disgusting. I think that was a champion that we hadn't really prepped for. I think a lot of us were thinking, oh, like he won't play Galio. Like he plays characters who are much more interesting than that. That's probably Kage Galio top, and he's playing the Pantheon mid. And I think we just weren't super prepared for that, but at the same time, I think they just outplayed. The Jinx is so good when it's able to get stuff done, and we did make the mistake of giving Hero Lee Sin. We let it fall through the first round. We'd banned it out In the first game, he picked Jarvan, or we banned it out in the second game. He picked Jarvan in the first. I don't think this was a game where any of us really played horribly. I think it was just a bit of a loose macro, and obviously they had a really good draft, a lot of stuff to peel for the Jinx, and we didn't have a super reliable way to get on top of her. And if we did, she immediately could just collapse on everybody. Like Fishy or Chow would have to go really deep, and Chow actually found, like, I think one of the best plays we've seen all season, where he hit like the taunt directly onto Jinx in the back line. I think it was like a flash taunt, insane play.
Yeah.
I like jumped out of my chair when that happened. But I think besides that, the game was pretty tough to play out. Just because they had so much peel for the Jinx, and a Jinx well protected this season is really hard to deal with.
Yeah, I think you summed this game up well. I was just I thought Rift Sharks like never gave up in this game. Like they kept fighting, and there were a couple times where they did find some favorable fights. One you mentioned off the back of Chow, like finding some insane CC onto the carries, and then also a fight where I thought Giraffe just like ran them down, like they were overstaying the map, and he recognized that and just ran them down and really forced a good fight. But yeah, in the end, you just couldn't really deal with the Jinx.
And then that does put us, 1 second, let me finish typing out some bans. Chow is the best and sent me the post game I was missing. So we actually,
yeah, that gets us to my series, the one against Metabusters, which was a pretty fun one. Ended up being a 2-0, but
yeah, didn't feel like
it was it was a pretty close series, I thought. I mean, both teams had their moments, but overall Metabusters played like a really solid 2 games in my opinion. I don't know what your takeaway from maybe game 1 was watching it.
Let me look at the champs and remember that. I think I missed the first game and watched the second one, so I will let you cover the first one, because I think that was at the same night as our series was. So.
Okay, yeah, that may have been. Yeah, I mean, we tried like a different role lineup in this one, as you can see. Noam wanted to swap out jungle, so we tried putting him in AD carry. Sarverse slotted into jungle, which I really appreciate Sarverse's like willingness to flex that.
Yeah.
And I thought he had like a pretty solid game on like the Darius. Like we first picked Darius, so I think they ended up drafting a team composition that was very good at dealing with Darius, and that hurt us some. But overall, like he played a pretty good early game. Like he found some kills onto Snow to help out the lane where Snow was kind of really bullying me in the lane. Had like the advantage as Victor does. We were able to shut him down a couple times. I thought Jonah had a pretty nice game against the Set. Like Set kind of just kept choosing to fight Jonah, even though he probably shouldn't have, and Jonah grabbed like a few more kills in lane than maybe you would have thought. But in the team fights, once again, it's kind of like you said, you could not get onto the carries ultimately. I mean, like we had some close team fights. I mean, I'm 11-2. Like we were fighting in the game, but ultimately could not get onto the Victor, could not get onto the Jinx with any consistency. And I thought in the last team fight, Corn had a really nice play where he like found a nice ultimate onto the back line, kind of kept Noam and myself and someone else occupied, and then hit a massive haymaker that pretty much took out everybody's HP bar, set up like the Victor ult, just like one shot at that point. And to me, that was one of those moments where I'm like, damn, Melon previous patch with the invulnerable W wouldn't even have died, and Melon this patch just got one shot even with the shield, but he played that fight out really well. And yeah, that was game 1. So you saw game 2, which again, it had some moments. I thought Jonah played a pretty nice game. Like he wanted this aggressive counter
solo
pick.
Kill to start off the game. That was like fucking awesome to watch. That was so
I did
hype.
kill Snow at level 1. Granted, he tried to skill check me a little bit with the flash in, and we still got it a little bit, guys. We still got it a little bit. But overall, again, it's a well-played game to Metabusters. Like Nocturne did great. Snow, he had that first death and then basically played a really clean game after that. 10-1-7, just insanely good Ahri game. Really impressed by him on that. And it was just a smart place to blind pick it too. Like I was 100% planning to pick Ahri there. Like if it got to me and he took it, blind picked early, smart by him. And Jonah's counter pick was fun. Like I didn't even know he had Neferi top in his bag, and he pulled that out and got a really nice advantage against Corn. But overall, I thought again, just Metabusters played really well, and I mean, that team's just strong. They have been, and just a good series by them. I don't know what your thoughts is much more there.
My read on this game is pretty much like Snow was just completely untouched. You have 3 champions who should just be able to immediately get on to Snow and punish it, and it just never lined up that way that there was actually a punish. I think it felt like the it was kind of like put on you to be able to punish the Ari, and like Talia can, but she's more of like a deterrent for Ari than actually like immediately able to get on her, because you need to somehow trap her in the E and then hit your flick, which isn't always guaranteed.
Yeah.
Pantheon and Rakan should be able to get on it. Weren't able to, and Jonah does have the ability to just click a button and go on it. I feel like Jonah did a really good job of killing like people that were separate from the fight, but at some point you do need the Fed Nefiri to like actually get onto the other Fed champion. And I don't want to be like playing for KDA, but I think the risk of dying to Ari was what deterred him from going on her, and I think that's what was needed to win. And then that happened for a few team fights. Ari gets too fed, and then at that point, when Jonah did start going on her, he can't even kill her, and then it's just kind of cooked. But I don't know. I think you guys had the starting bit of a really good game there, but I feel like the Ziggs got a lot of damage down, but I just didn't have as much impact as it needed to, which I don't even think is the fault of Noam. I think he played fine that game, but I don't know. It's just kind of tough. I feel like their entire team spikes at about the same time. Like, obviously, Aatrox spikes a little bit earlier, but then Nocturne and RA kick in really strong in the mid game, and once Sivir gets items, it's just a really strong point of the game, and you guys weren't really able to contest, even though you weren't terribly far behind. I don't know. Tough series. I was pulling for you guys. I thought it would be exciting, but Metabus was just 2-0s. I don't know. Not much else
Yeah,
to say.
I was feeling good going into it. I think this series kind of just showed kind of what a continual kind of issue with our team has been, which is just sometimes I feel like the mid game decisions have been poor. I think in game one there was one point where we had two people inside and we engaged on them mid, even though we didn't see where their mid laner was, and we're calling that information. We try to make the play. They surprised some of us, and we're sitting there. That kind of snowballs. Yeah. Also, game one, I just thought Stav and Jacob played a super good series both games, but like they just have such good synergy. Like there was one point in game one where I think Bean had went on a roam, Gnome threw his arrow to try to gank a lane. They recognized that instantly, and Jacob just immediately like flashes on Gnome. Gnome's still has flash, but he's so far up in the lane. Now they know you're there 1v2. They flash on him, punish him. Stav gets a kill, and they just snowballed really well. But I mean, we're not surprised. It's been how many seasons of like Stav and Jacob just playing really well together?
Quite a few. 5.
Yeah.
Or no, because Stav took
Yeah.
a break. 4, just not consecutive. But no, they're very good. And obviously, like you guys had just done the role swap, for Noam and Bean to play together. Noam and Bean hadn't been playing together in the previous season. It's like they don't have the seasons backing up to it, and they just swapped this season, so it's not like they have anything to really start off there. So it was tough, but I think we can just move over to NYMB versus SKT. And honestly, I think that 2 NYMB series that we're about to cover have been like the most important series out of the last couple weeks. I think Rift Sharks and Starkify was pretty important, but we ended up losing. So I think that kind of played out as people thought it would. But NYMB, I think, is one of those teams that's really on the cusp of potentially making it to playoffs and knocking out these other teams. And them having played QC and SKT, these are teams that I think were in really good spots to be able to contest. Obviously not so much anymore, which we'll cover. SKT I still think has chances, but anyway, NYMB I feel like just completely clutched up in both series. But the first one that we're looking at here, Archive PB get Zyra Khan, and they do really well. I feel like Mike on the Viego was, again, just everything you needed. Lithy was on her highest performing champion, I feel like, but Apari picking the Trundle counter pick into Viego, I feel like forces him onto a champion that he hasn't played very much, which I think is interesting. And Tuxedo was on the Aatrox, which has gotten a lot of bans, but Blake obviously had a pick prepped into it. And I feel like a lot of people were saying that Aatrox counters Garen. It certainly did not look like that in the game. I think NYMB just played super clean. This is a really good team comp, just passes the eye check, and they have really good lanes for everything and a ton of comfort. So I have no notes for NYMB here.
Yeah, I thought they played a really good game. And, I will say to Apari's credit, he did the same thing in the series against our team. Gnome first picked away the Viego. He answered with the Trundle, and it went pretty well for him in that game, so I'm not surprised. So he tried to go back to it. But I think, as you alluded, their whole team just played really cleanly. Archived is deathless that game. And just, Nutbusters with a great game one there. And to see Mike come back in, we saw him in a previous series,
Yeah,
I
he played
believe.
against
This wasn't like his
us.
first series back. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that one just like I feel like that he was getting the rust off, getting the synergy with the team, and then you come into this series and looks like the Mike that you had taken you to finals last season, and that gave me a lot of confidence for them, not only in game two of this series, but moving forward.
Yeah, and they've actually continued to run him, which I think is really interesting. I don't know if that's like a. I know at first it was a carrot availability thing, but I wonder if after they played a series with him, if it stopped being that. I really don't know. I haven't talked to Blake about it, which is shocking. I feel like Blake tends to talk to me when they're losing, though. So the fact that they've started winning maybe means Blake's gonna complain to me a little less. But I don't know. That's a little sad. I like Blake talking to me about all of his nasty stuff. He did tell me that he thought Psycho Carrot had possessed Apari before this series because he saw like Ignite Phase Rush Kane or something on Apari's match history. Or maybe it was like Airy. It might have been Airy. But anyway,
That's
I thought
funny.
that was funny. But no, they just like showed up, played super duper well. The second series, I think you have a lot of comfort for Lithi, and actually the Nevada Ray bot lane. I think these are really good picks from them. Just didn't turn out really well. Normally, any other team, I'd be like, do not pick Talia Thresh. I think that's horrible. But I was really excited about it when I saw it in draft. I think that's really good comfort for them. But yeah, the score lines kind of speak for themselves. You have Daniel on Akali going 17-3. Mike just whips out the Lee Sin, goes 13-6, and had so much kill participation. That's 34. I don't think anyone else even came close. Yeah, PB had 33. Like, I don't know. That just Mike's impact this game was absurd, and Apari just ends up going 2-12, which is it's just unfortunate. I don't even think he played like that horribly, but everyone on NYMB got so fed, and at like you're kind of the only main engage. Like you and Tuxedo just have to fling your bodies at them, which works if you're ahead, but as soon as you fall behind, you're just going to look like you're trolling, and you don't really have any other options. So
Yeah, I thought Daniel and Mike played really good games, and as did they all. But Daniel's and Colley's been looking really clean this season, and this was one of those games.
For sure. And I think we can just move forward. Oh my God, there's so many games we didn't cover. We've been slacking. I'm so sorry. I think a lot of it was just schedule worked out a little funny.
Game one here though, so this is like the new Qualmless Chillers lineup with the Scott transfer, and they come in and just play like an insanely good game into Alberts, which has been a really good team this season. And you're like, oh my God, QC, they figured it out. They're just coming in guns a-blazing, and just like, wow, like this was what you've been wanting to see from them.
Yeah, I think this one I missed. I think I was out somewhere, so I was like opening it up. I saw the kill score, and I just closed it right back up. And I don't know. Usually, like what I do if I need to watch a league series that I don't actually have the time to watch, I'll watch the first game, and then the second game I'll skip because either it's 1-1 and I get to watch the third game, or the team that's ahead wins, and then I know what happened.
Yeah.
And then I don't miss anything because it's the 2-0. So I did end up missing the entire second game of the series. Checked in just enough to see that they won. But this first game was disgusting. Jakar on the Jace. And honestly, Scott being able to just pick a tank and do really well. I feel like Zaber tends to play more bruisers. So that's kind of a nice adaptation here. Allows Jakar to just take more farm. And obviously, Ribbon's deathless. And Alec and Zaber each only had one death. I think Zaber did a really good job of transitioning into the support role. I think we've seen some rough role swaps this season. I think Zaber did a really good job. I think commending him there. Obviously, he had 7 deaths on Nautilus, but that's a low amount of deaths for Nautilus, so no criticism there. I mean, first game was super clean. I don't think there's much to say. You had Giga Comfort for 4 members of Albert's Inferno. I think Irelia might be a little down Canucks pool. And didn't turn out super well, but I don't know. Was the Irelia a counterpick into the Mundo?
I don't recall the exact draft order, but I would assume it was.
That just seems like a rough matchup because I feel like you can fight him, but then Jungle shows up and beats your ass. If it's truly a 1v1, I feel like Irelia would probably do really well, but when he's on something like Jace, you're just never getting to actually do that. Second game looks like it was a lot closer.
I know the storyline's more like the Fizz and the Akali, but it was just really fun to me to like see a Nasus come through. I really liked that.
How many Nasuses have we even had? Like overall ever? I feel like he's got to be low on the list. Oh, I accidentally hit load games. It's not happy about that. We've had only 40 Nasus's, which puts him like bottom 20, bottom 30 champions. Yeah,
Not a
10.
champion that a ton of
Oh,
players
Fizz is
play
even
or
less
want to
played than
play,
he is.
but
So
fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
Nasus is like 22nd or 23rd from the bottom. Fizz much lower though, but Fizz is 48% win rate. Nasus is 55. So hey, take that
Ah,
as you will. But no, it was very fun to see the Nasus. I agree. Fizz jungle, you know, that is what it is. I don't know why Riot decided that was a good idea. I think you see just as much comfort from Inferno this time around, and again, they just didn't have it. I think missing Draco for them is a big deal. I think it
yeah.
leaves Zaber a lot like unpunished. I think my take on Inferno supports is I think if you're running into a good support, I think Jeremy and Draco are about equal. Because I think Jeremy's really good at playing defensively and not getting punished. I think if you're playing
Mm.
into like a weaker support or especially an off roll, I think Draco has like so much extra power because Draco's really good at figuring out what champion's able to punish the other team, especially in the support role, and getting a lot done with it. So I think Inferno's suffering a lot here.
Yeah, Draco's also
But yeah,
not afraid to like move around the map on enchanters when I feel like a lot of enchanter players feel more stuck to their carry.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know how much that is a factor there, but obviously double assassins into the Jinx, much better way to kill her than what was the other game that we looked at with the Jinx?
Mm.
Oh yes, Hecarim into Pantheon and Galio with Emilio. But I don't know. I think that worked out quite well for QC here. I think a lot of people were maybe doubting Scott being a big deal, and I think maybe some people were optimistic about it. So to see it pay off really strongly was definitely fun. Of
Well,
course, then
I
we
don't mean
go.
to. Yeah, yeah, you say was it a
Yeah.
big deal or not, but then you go to the next series and it's the same roster
Yes.
they just ran and it ended up not being as big of a deal and it was just a Project Tuesdays 2-0, which to
Yeah.
me, them like not really playing with their food here and just like having a clean series just again really stamped how good Project Tuesdays is to me this season. Like
Hmm.
you could have come in here and won in like a close 2-1 or some kind of series like that and you'd been happy with the win, but like just a 2-0 is just like, hey, we're competing at the top. We're not worried about making playoffs for Project Tuesdays. We're trying to win the whole thing. Um, and I thought Blind Spiral that first game on his Pantheon maybe just played one of the best games he's played in the server, like that
So
I've
was his
watched on
one
team
death hack
format.
game by ulting into the fountain?
Yeah,
Did that
like
happen
just
again?
and just to do that on like the champion where you need to get the advantage, you need to set your team up. Just I don't know. Like I was just I think he got MVP in that game and just played
Yeah, deserved.
so well. But I mean, as did the rest of the team, which has been the storyline for them. Like they've never been to me a team that's like one player. Like they're such a well-rounded team. But to see that like any five of them, I feel like can step up and be the best player in an individual game is what's making them so scary right now. And for Spiral to do it against who many people consider the best jungler, if not the best player in the server, was just like so awesome to see. And yeah, I was
Yeah.
just really, really happy for them.
The big thing that stands out for me here, though, is that Aphelios actually just fell through the entire series. I don't know why that champion
Yeah,
didn't get picked. Project Tuesday chose to triple ban Drakkar. I honestly wonder if it's like one of those situations where it's like, oh, this champ's permit against me. Like, let's not get baited by them leaving up. Like, maybe they have a counter for it. But
yeah.
I don't know.
I
I
think
mean, they
both
just triple
players
banned
like the
Drakkar.
champion though too. Mm,
Yeah, I thought someone would pick it up, but
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's like Ribbons doesn't first pick it, so then Yogg's like, oh, like it's bait. The champ isn't good anymore. Or maybe the champion did get nerfed, and I'm just not aware of it. I don't know. Someone in Twitch chat will probably correct me,
I mean, I think
but
they just kind of picked champions that have been seeing a lot of priority in the server.
yeah,
Like those four champions that are on the screen right now have just been four of the most popular champs this season, and
sleepy.
so it's
We
not
complain
surprising that they
about
went for it.
ADC being a boring lane, and then they just pick the same fucking four champions.
I will say, to Scott's credit, I thought Scott had some really nice plays in the second game. The
Yeah,
Urgot was a kind of a fun counter pick, and or I don't remember if he blinded or countered or what, but he played it well. But then you had this Warwick counter pick come through, which was
I
really
think Warwick
exciting.
was R5, maybe.
Yeah, I don't recall
I don't know.
exactly, but I just
I'll
remember
pull it
we
up
were
while we're
really
talking.
excited for the Warwick, and I was casting this with Mason, and Mason was telling me how they'd seen this get played in LPL and it had done well, so I was excited for it,
Oh
but
no, it
it
was
felt like it
Warwick
was
4 or got 5.
okay. It felt like it was one of those games where you picked the Warwick for like the individual counter matchup, but just had so much trouble against the rest of the team. I mean, like Ari got really good charms onto Warwick. Gangplank is Gangplank. Saber has a spell shield, and
Right.
I
No, I
thought
think
Patel
I
played
think
a
the
really
big
good game
deal
peel
there
wise.
is that the Gangplank and the Blitzcrank both got picked into the Warwick, and the orange
Yeah,
is, I feel like, a big deal because that gets you out of the suppression, I'm pretty sure. So that
it
just
did.
removes his ability to interact with top lane. And then Fatal's Blitzcrank obviously is a really good pick into it. I think Warwick is one of those champions where you probably just need to pick it R5 if you're going to pick it. And if there is a team that just gets to hold R5 for jungle every single time, I think QC is definitely a good team to do that. But they did hold the last counter pick to Scott. And I think Urgot can definitely get advantages into GP, but a good GB player is going to be able to just play the game and end up scaling and still doing really well, which is what Dave ended up doing here.
Yeah, it's not the first time he's
So
done
yeah,
that this season either.
yeah.
In the game against my team, I think Jonah even solo killed him a couple times as Scion, and then he just scales on this Gangplank champion to become such a threat. Um, One thing I've been disappointed about this season, I feel like Alex gotten his Azir quite a few times this season and had some good angles and still made some pretty good plays. But dude, Azir is like such a bad champion right now. Like it's been nerfed so hard. Like I don't even think the champ's good, that good, at least in like the level of play we're playing in. And then you still see them nerfing the champion like in the most recent patch notes because of pro
Yeah, he's
play.
6-8 on it overall, and just this season he's 2-5 on it. Just team
Yeah.
format, he's 0-3, which is pretty rough. 1.38 KDA too. It hasn't even looked like close for him, which is just unfortunate. I think there definitely have been some misplays that I feel like have been like uncharacteristic in some of the games I've seen. So I don't think it's
Mm.
like entirely the champion being bad. And I don't know, it's just surprising for me. I wonder if maybe it's like he's had to play more ADC and he's gotten off his game, but I don't know. He looked a lot better on it last season. I agree with you. It's a bit of a bummer. The Silas also is a pick that's really strong for him consistently, and the fact that he wasn't able to perform super well on that sucks. But I mean, Project Tuesdays did Project Tuesdays things. They're really good. I think even if QC's roster swap was a big deal, I still don't think that like predicts them over PT. I was
Yeah.
pretty convinced they were going to lose that one no matter what. I mean, PT and Inferno were both really tough matchups. The fact that they were able to get that one, I think, was a big deal. Unfortunately for them, going forward, didn't stay that way. I think I'm going to skip over Inferno and Meta Busters and then just go right to NYMB versus QC since we've talked about that a little already. But
Okay.
this series, I think, was such a big statement from Daniel. I think we've been questioning throughout the season why we haven't seen the Jace get picked in some spots. He picks it, slams it down, and Alec did not play Lulu this game. Um, but
He was also Tom Kench, not Morgana.
okay. Yep. Thank you. Sorry, I was trying to talk while I did this.
No, you're good, but
But
yeah, no, this was a really great series. For I thought New York Gunbusters as a whole, but especially Daniel, just to like play super well against Alec, who I think is a strong mid laner.
mhm.
Really just took over, and I have been like, there's been times on the podcast where I have said, man, I just love to see his Jace because I think his Jace is so good, and then you see him just take it in this game and played really well. And I loved like pairing it with the Hui Nami, which is that's just not a surprise to me. I mean, me and PB and me, PB and Evan used to do same kind of stuff. You get the Nami, you get the Hui, and then you pair it with like a strong AD champion mid, and that's such a good combo. To see them revive that for their new team, I love that that's still in their bag. I hope that's something they can potentially use moving forward. Um, and yeah, I mean, really good series from NYMB. QC, went back to a different lineup. They got Paul in, they had Jim in, so Scott stepped away after the two series he had played. I thought Drakkar did some nice things in this series, especially game two. Played a really good Cassante, found like some solo kills onto Blake, and then was doing a lot of work in team fights, but it just didn't matter. Like Drakkar in at least one or two team fights was almost like 1v4ing or 1v3ing, but the assassins of Akali and Neferi were just killing the back line. So it just like does not matter if they can kill Jakar or not because there's no one else that could stay alive. Daniel was
Yeah.
just all over them. Was finding
Oh,
like really good flanks too.
Drakkar also probably didn't have 43 assists.
Yeah, that's that might be a little too many, Dean.
Whoopsies. Well, anyway, rush job. But yeah, I feel like I had a few takeaways from this series. I think obviously Daniel really showed up, and I think that was a big deal. I think last season, if you asked anybody, I think they would have said that Alec was the higher performing player to Daniel. I think if you look at the sum of this season leading up to this series, I think that's a little bit of a less convicted. That answer has a little bit less conviction. Maybe the way I said it before was right, but anyway, I think this was the series where Daniel just shows that he's better, at least in his current form. Both of them were on champions that are super high priority for each of them, so I don't even think that's it. I mean, the LeBlanc got banned versus Alec, and no bans were put over towards Daniel. I don't think that's a huge deal, but I don't know. I mean, Mike again had a good Lee Sin game. This Hen was a little bit lackluster, but Blake barely even got punished on Mordekaiser. I mean, it's really hard to punish the Mordekaiser. That was basically the entire story of top lane last season, at least for me and Blake, was just slam Mord, and no one can do anything about it unless you ban it. And that hasn't been quite the same this season, but Blake shows it still works. I think that was especially just a pick he was considering into Drakkar a lot last season. And obviously Drakkar was playing top lane this game, but still prepped for the team nonetheless. Ribbons had like a basically silent series here, but I think, and this gets to my other big point about this series, I think it's impossible to have a good series when you give them Hui Nami and Jinx Tahm Kench. You've banned two supports away from PB that aren't even the best pairings for Archive's best champions, and you banned the Viego, which I think is fair. I'm not actually going to dispute the Viego at all. But if you look at New York Nutbusters and you think about it holistically, the two best combos they have are the ones in front of us. It's Hui Nami, it's Jinx Tahm Kench. Those are the two best bot lanes by far. Yeah, I know PB's good at Rakan, I know PB's good at Rel, but those are the best pairings that he has for Jinx and Hui, and they just gave him over. I think Archived is like a little bit weaker off those two champions, so I think you could ban those two champions, and then you'd have to deal with Zyra Khan, sure, but oh well, it's only one game. It's looked really good. Maybe you could ban like Rakan and Tahm Kench, because Tahm Kench is good with both of them. I don't know. I think there's just something else you could have done, because you literally just gave them their best two combos and did nothing about it. I don't even think their counters for them are even particularly good.
Yeah, I think that's
So
some good announcements by you, Dean. I mean, I do think that, New York Nutbusters definitely was on a lot of comfort. I would have liked to have seen Qualmless play with a little bit more comfort. Like, I'm sad we haven't seen Paul's Tarek. Like, that was such an insanely good champion for him last season, and I don't think we've seen it. And I would love to see him go back to that champion. So I was a little disappointed we didn't get to see that. And yeah, you give Nutbusters their comfort, and they're gonna give it to you. I mean, it's kind of comfort across the board for them across different games. Like, I think game one, everything but Mike Zahin is probably considered like supreme comfort, and then game two,
I think Mike Zahin is one of his top champions right now.
So, oh, is it? Okay. Yeah. Well, then it's all comfort. In game two, it's like all comfort. I mean, Blake Snafiri's been insane. Mike Lee Sin's always been good. Just Nutbusters looking really strong and really positioning themselves to get into playoffs with like a ton of momentum.
Yeah, no, they're looking super solid. It's not locked for them yet, but it's close to. They still have actually only one series remaining. They have their scheduled break week this week. I think Blake's out for something. So we won't get to see them coming up soon, but we will get to see them close out their season versus, I think it's Snarkify. I feel like everyone still has to play Snarkify because, they've only played 4 series. No, actually, it's the Buster Battle. We get to end with the Buster Battle. Thank God. I love it.
That's so exciting with how good both those teams are playing right now, too.
I got permission from the captains that I was allowed to choose the last week of games. I wasn't allowed to choose anything else. So I got to choose the last week of games. So we get to see QC versus Snarkify, which isn't going to matter as much. But we do get to see the Buster Battle, and that's what I'm here for. But anyway, I mean, really clean series from New York Nutbusters. I think Drakkar had some upsides to top. I am really sad, though, that we got to see Scott Pilgrims join Qualmless Chillers just to not play against Blake. I feel like that's you really want to see Scott get run top, because I think before they had Scott on top, I think you could argue that Drakkar was probably the best jungler and the best top laner they had on the team. I don't even think it's true anymore. I think him and Scott are probably pretty closely matched, and I think Mike's good enough. You want Drakkar into him. I wonder if this was like an availability thing or what happened here, but They ended up not running Scott, and I think had them suffer a little bit there. Even losing PT, they actually still had really good odds to get into playoffs if they were able to win this series, because it would have put them and New York Nutbusters both at 2 wins. And SKT also at 2 wins, and they had the tiebreaker over NY and B, so it was looking good. But unfortunately, this loss did eliminate them from playoff contention. So we'll see if they show up and turn the heat up against Snarkify when they play them. I think that series might be a little less exciting now that Snarkify is undefeated and QC is eliminated. But I will say,
hopefully they just turn it on for the,
right,
just for
I
the
think
love of the
if
game.
you get to play spoiler and you get to say, hey, no team has ever gone undefeated in Scrim Zone regular season, we're going to try super hard this game and kick your ass to make you lose one. Hell yeah. I would have so much respect for QC if they did that instead of just mailing it in. But hey, maybe we'll get to see Vayne Jungle come back, and I would like that too. But ideally try and
Vayne
take a
Jungle
game
would
off
be
them. It'll
hype.
be
Yeah.
fun.
Hey, the Vayne Jungle I think can win. You know, we've seen some fun jungle
think
picks,
so
but we
too.
saw Fizz Jungle win. If Fizz Jungle can win, Vayne Jungle can win.
Okay, and then going over to Metabusters versus Albert's Inferno. Was this actually an Anivia pick? I feel like Anivia is one of those champions that shows up when it's not supposed to a lot.
I thought he might have played K. No, he played Kale in the next
It was
game.
LeBlanc. It was LeBlanc.
Okay.
The first game is correct.
What was interesting to me too in this series was they ran Pickle instead of Canuck. It was one of the first times we haven't seen Canuck get played in quite a few weeks. And I think Canuck's been arguably their best player. So, when they come in with this roster, it's going to be like, how are they going to look? And in game 1, it was somewhat close, but I mean, you gave Korn his best champion, and he just kind of gave it to you,
Yeah, so I think that is obviously a negative for game 1 for Albert's Inferno. You give Darius and you lose. I don't know. I mean, I think Darius is a really good counter matchup into Shen too. I think some people like to pick the Shen because you can block his autos. You don't get bleed stacked on you very much. But as soon as Shen teleports anywhere else, Darius just takes over the lane, gets a bunch of extra farm, hits sour plates, and just has a lead that's not surpassable anymore. So I kind of hate
Darius.
But
to ban Aatrox over Darius to me just feels like you're misreading Korn.
Yeah. But the concept of give Korn one of his top 4 champions and then pick the other one away in the second game, I think that worked wonders for them. I mean, obviously the first game I feel like was a bit of a steamroll in terms of Korn had a huge lead and they just kind of couldn't stop him the entire game. We pointed out earlier how there was a good draft into Darius. This is a bad draft into Darius on top of giving over Korn's Darius. But in the second game, I was really sketched on the orange jungle. I was like, maybe this is a bad idea. I don't necessarily love it. I don't think it worked great, but it worked well enough for the rest of them to do really well. Brian and Draco were on comfort. We haven't gotten to see Omar's Vex very much, but my God, he had a good game on it. So no judgment. And I know Omar's a player with a very deep champion pool. So it definitely wasn't like doubt that I was putting on it when I saw it come through. And it's a really good counter pick into LeBlanc, not into Anivia, which I'm fixing right now. Here.
No, I agree. It is kind of a nice pick into the LeBlanc. I thought Omar had a nice game. I thought Brian has just had another nice game on what's been a really nice season. To me, I thought Brian had some big shoes to fill coming into this team. Getting moved to 80 carry. I mean, you're filling in for their long time 80 carry, Teddy and Snark, who have been just 2 of the best 80 carries in the server. So you got big shoes to fill, and it's just been so good this season. And you get Draco back for this series. Draco played great again.
Yeah.
And game 3, I was such a believer for them. I thought Albert was finding some really good plays with the fiddlesticks, and I thought Omar had some nice plays with the Echo. I've personally had Tusini counterpick my Echo before. Try to counterpick it with the Kale and play really well. The Kindred's been great for them. But to pull that one out, when you look at just the scoreboard in game 3, the scoreboard tells you how close that was. I mean, to win when you got 2-8 bot, 0-6, they were getting punished,
the kill
but
score
they
was
just came
negative
online
when they won. Yeah, I mean, so watching this draft, I was very vocal in Twitch chat in this because my God, this pisses me off to no end. Metabusters drafts a composition with 0 engage and 5 skill, which is the worst thing you can possibly do ever. I hate this. They did not deserve to win this game.
But
They
they
won the
did.
game because Albert's Inferno did not finish the game fast enough, and their macro was bad. The
Yeah.
amount of times that they had a lead and could have pushed the lead and got caught out in rotation for no reason, not great. I mean, I think Kindred and Kale do make playing Echo and Fiddlesticks a little bit hard. Same with the Varus, because it's very burst onto one person and go. And I think what you need to do to counter that is stagger your timing. You have 3 big buttons to press. Echoes isn't really a big button. But Garen ult is. I think you can count that. So you have 3 big buttons to press. The
Sure.
ultimates on top jungle support, or a top jungle bot. And you just want to go in on those, and you don't want to do them all at the same time, because if you do them all at the same time, then they can just press Kindred ultimate or Kale ultimate and save the target you're going for. So if you stagger it and then go in really well, you get a lot done in fights, which Alberts did for the majority of the game. Then they hit a point where they had gotten Baron, they had gotten some dragons, they had a really big objective lead, and they didn't really push out and close the game. They had a lot of dead time on the map. Echo takes towers like a motherfucker. They didn't quite push the lead where they needed to, and I think the game's still winnable. They had like a 7k gold lead. People hadn't bought full
It
builds
was.
yet, but then Meta Busters had a really good play when Albert's Inferno had they walked to Baron, they took Baron, and they reset. And Metabusters, instead of contesting Baron, which a lot of teams would have done, you have Fuger, who has a dash, hop over the wall into pit and die for no reason, trying to steal. Every team does that, right? Instead, what Metabusters did is they put a 5-man rotation into the bot side. They put him in the red side jungle. Pickle walks into the red side jungle. Pickle dies. That's game. It's late enough in the game that they just get to win. So, I mean, when I say Metabusters didn't deserve to win, they did make a good strategic decision. They punished them well. They caught the rotation out,
Sure.
and it worked. But my God, do you not deserve to win when you draft like this? It's like you're literally just counting on the other team to like fuck up horribly and not
Yeah,
end the
that's
game in
fair.
the
That's
first
fair.
35 minutes and scale. But
I think you're being
anyway,
fair. My biggest takeaway, Dean, one final takeaway is I need to see this series in playoffs when they
with
have
Canuck,
Canuck in.
yes.
I
Oh
got to
my
see the
God.
rematch. I got to see Canuck
Oh
in
my
for this
God.
series next time. Yeah, this has
Yeah.
been 2 Alberts series where I think they've been without, they had Pickle in instead of Canuck, and the other series they had Jeremy in instead of Draco. And I'd love to continue to see this Alberts team on like their prime main roster because I just think that roster has been really, really hard to beat.
Yeah, and I think the crazy thing is this leaves Inferno with chances to not make playoffs. Like they could
Which
just
would be
cleanly
tragic.
not make it. They have matchups against 2 of the top 3 teams. They have to play Rift Sharks and then they have to play Project Tuesdays. I think that there are definitely still chances of them qualifying, even if they lose both of those series, but they'd be at the mercy of other teams. We can hit the foldy sheet in a sec and actually go over that, but I would hate to see that, and I think you're right that we need more time with their good players. But anyway, moving into the last series, I don't think there's too much discussion on this one. We got to see Nova play for the first time. I thought the Xerath looked really good. By
Yeah.
God, did the Ezreal counterpick into Anivia do wonders? I
Yeah.
don't know. I like in comms, Giraffe was like, just pick me Ezreal. And like, I thought the man was trolling. I made him swear up and down that if we picked the Ezreal, he would win the game for me in under 30 minutes so I could go to bed. He said he would. And I go, okay, I'll trust this. I'll let him pick it. And they did that. I don't know. Cassidon top, I think, can situationally be fine. I think it would have been fine into Kane, maybe. Horrible into Hecarim. That champion gets online way too early. When you only have an ult every 5 seconds, you can't really do much. I think Bean did a decent job on the Singe jungle. The Nico jungle, I think he just ended up at the wrong place at the wrong time a lot of times, which is a little unfortunate. And obviously Nova just did not get to play the game, so him not having rotations there is rough.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
only like a real commentary about this game is I think if you're running Dad, which was great, I love seeing him play. I think you want him on champions with more impact. I think he did okay on the Milio, but Yumi just kind of doesn't really have much map impact. Evan and Frentic
Yeah.
kind of didn't really get to do anything in the last game. Frentic had really, really good rotations, but the lane itself, I guess the Yumi paid off, but I would have loved to see the Bard. We left that up. And he has a lot of other champions that I think are really strong, and I was bummed we didn't get to see those. But I don't know how serious of a series this was. I would have liked to play. I requested to see y'all's roster in advance so that I could tell people to show up because I didn't want to ask people to show up if they weren't going to get to play. That was declined, so we just went with main roster. People are going to spin whatever narratives they want to, but I was hoping to get to play against you and Jonah and Noam because, we've all been good friends for a while
Yeah.
and all Rift Sharks members, but you know, I at the same time I want to have fun and play against y'all, but on the other hand, like we are still a team that are vying for a good seed in playoffs, and I don't want to just run some random ass roster, which is lower points than your roster, just to have fun. Which I don't know.
Sure. I mean, I didn't really get to watch a ton of this one. I missed all game one. I really wasn't. I was traveling back from a trip this week, and it worked out too because we wanted to get Nova a series. I do want to shout out Nova. I got to get in for the game comms in game two, and that was a rough game, but I thought, and my teammates also backed up that Nova was just like a really, really chill guy. I thought he played like had a pretty had his moments, especially in the game one. You know, had some good moments, got some kills. But that's just always going to be a hard matchup. I mean, you're going up against Giraffe, who's been playing like the best mid laner in the server. I mean, guys, really really high rank. So that was always going to be a tough battle. I didn't know anything about the roster or whatnot back and forth. It would have been fun, I think, to have seen like you gone mid or something.
That was what I was
I mean,
hoping for,
but ultimately,
I didn't want to
all
do
I'll
it
say
on
is
my
like
own.
I think it would have been fun to see like a different roster from you guys. Probably could have been a little more competitive. I think you're favored regardless, but I mean, the way I would just put it is you guys don't owe it to any other team to play any specific roster or anything like that. You
We
guys are
did
fighting for
once.
stuff, and you got to play your best. I
Once we
mean,
got the roster,
Jen Giraffe
I hit
popped
the
off.
Avengers Assemble button and tried to pull people out of thin air, but unfortunately, it didn't happen. But
And yeah, I thought just yeah, Red Sharks with another dominant 2-0. Fishy again looking really nice as well. The Hecarim is so scary, and it's been a while since I think we've had a really strong Hecarim player in the server. I know Mason used to play that pick a lot,
yes,
but Fishy's really just like piloting it to great success the majority of the games that he's playing it, and I've really enjoyed seeing that come back around too.
yeah, 100%. It's very fun getting to watch the POV when I'm just coaching a series. It's definitely entertaining. Especially when I go to get like a drink or something, I come back and he has 3 more kills, and I'm like, oh, that's nice. I do want to take a quick look at the stats for team format, just in terms of champs. Some stuff has been pointed out to me. I don't know how accurate it was. Yes, most picked champions. Jinx is second and has a 35% win rate. Thought that was an interesting pick. Varus is the other one
Wow.
who's high presence, bad win rate. Same with Wei, 4 and 8. Varus is 5 and 8. Everyone else is about where you'd expect them to be with a high priority champion, where they don't win all the time, but they're high 50s, low 60s.
Can we see
Just
the Nocturne win rate, Dean?
Oh, yes. Why don't I go to that when we go lane by lane? Because top lane is still all tanks with some Gwen, and Gwen loses Malphite 1 and 4, Renekton 4-1, kind of interesting. Jungle, as you've predicted, Nocturne quite well. He's at 64. Mumu's actually at 67, and Dr. Mundo's at 75. Kayn 4 and 1 is super interesting. That's actually been 4 games of Fishy and 1 game of Apari. I don't know what the ban stats look like there, but the majority of the bans are obviously going to be against Apari. It doesn't get banned against Fishy too much.
Yeah, Par and Jakar have still been drawing a lot of bans
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, Kayn has been banned 14 times, so not as high as some of the other ones. Gwen's the most banned with 29. Syndra, Lilia, Echo have 27, 25, 20. Kali is up there, and Aatrox is actually... Twitch is the worst ratio. Twitch gets played twice, banned 16 times, but Aatrox is 4 and 16 as well, which isn't great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, looking at the KDs of these champions who have been not winning so much, Echo 2.37 actually isn't that great. Oh, I'm looking at bans. Okay. Jinx, 35%, 2.47 KDA. Honestly, pretty respectable for how many losses it has. Varus has an over 3 KDA. Hui kind of in the same boat there. Gwen was the one that was pointed out to me, though. She's 3 and 5 and has a 4 KDA, which is kind of gross. Syndra, Victor, Ari, the big winners in the mid lane here. Azir's 1 and 5. We know 3 of those games are Alec. Aurora is 5 and 0 with a 5 KDA, though, so that could be a champion not to sleep on going into playoffs. It's been 2 games Game Case, 2 games Sandy, 1 game Alec, so that's not really a champion-specific thing there. Bot lane, as we've talked about, is like giga boring. More Caitlyn, which I think is actually more interesting than a lot of these champions. Caitlyn's 8 and 3, and not something you see a lot of people playing. Brian and Stav being the only 2 people who have played her 3 times, both really good stats. Brian actually has much better stats, even though he's lost on it. and then
Yeah, I
support
really like the Caitlyn. I'd
still
like to see
kind of
more of
boring.
that.
Yeah, so I don't know. Shout out Caitlyn, and I think our jungle pool is somewhat interesting. I think Jarvan being at the top isn't crazy, and then Amu and Dr. Mundo are kind of boring. But honestly,
I
getting to
think
see a lot
champs
of
like
like Viego,
yeah.
Lilia, Hecarim, Kane, Xin Pantheon, Nocturne, all fun.
Yeah.
So
To see, but I mean, Nocturne is definitely like a staple jungle champ. But I don't feel like a champion we've always seen a ton in the server. So to like see
yeah,
it
I
have
don't
some
think so.
like a high priority season, like that's kind of fun. I mean, it's different for that to be like a contested pick, which I think
Yeah,
moving
if we go
forward,
to
especially as you get into playoffs, it's contested.
if we go to team format overall, Nocturne's like 13th on the list.
Yeah. So it's
Jarvan and
Nocturne
Viego are
season right
tied for
now, baby.
first.
Turn the lights out.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I do want to jump over to the Foldy sheet. Unfortunately, One Thief and QC are both eliminated with 1-6 records, and their final match is both Snarkify, so go fucking figure. I would think it would be great if one of them would take a series off of Snarkify, but I definitely understand if the spirits are not super high. But the stakes are big because in the 10 seasons that we've completed, no team has ever gone through the regular season undefeated. So if Snarkify was able to do that, I think that would be a big deal. Definitely see some people casting asterisks on, oh, well, they played two teams who weren't trying at the end if that happens, but I don't think that's fair.
Hold on. They have
I was
four
just about to
opponents
say,
left.
like,
They still got to play Project
yes,
Tuesdays, SKT.
I'm saying if people say that,
Yeah.
I'm canceling it proactively because
Okay.
there have been teams who are a lot less threatening in the past. So whatever. But yeah, that they still do have SKT, and SKT, if they get that win, that would be big for their playoff chances. SKT can still tie for third. They're by no means out. And Project Tuesdays, I think, is the big one. That is probably the battle for first. I think PT's only dropped a single series so far. It wasn't against SR, which is points against them, but that does mean that if they each drop one series, PT is going to have the tiebreaker, which is a really big deal. Both of those teams have like what's my math? 60% chance of getting first or tying for first. So definitely not decided yet. Snarkify has a lot more scenarios where they could just drop random games. Unfortunately, it is going to be kind of between 1-tier QC on who gets 8th and 9th. I don't think anyone else can get those places. Both 1-tier QC could tie for 7th, though. But if it does come down to it, I believe you guys have the head-to-head over QC, which does put you in a little bit of a, you might not get last. So unless
place,
QC
baby.
beats Snarkify.
Coming for you.
But anyway, it is cool that every team has won at least one series this season, which isn't something we've seen for a bit, with SKT being the bottom. Most seasons we've had a team who went deathless or winless. Some of the earlier seasons that wasn't true, but as of recent, I feel like that's happened more times than not. But the battle for making it for playoffs is pretty contested. Metabusters has locked it, as have the three that we already talked about, SRPT and Rift Sharks. But one team out of SKT, Inferno, and New York Nutbusters isn't going to make it. The fact that Inferno is still in that conversation is wild. And my God, do they have hard opponents left? So it's not honestly looking great for them, but SKT has to play against Snarkify and Metabusters, which I think is just as strong of a end of the roster. Metabusters has to play against SKT and New York Nutbusters. They've already qualified, so I don't even know why I said that. But the fact that New York Nutbusters still has to play against them, I think, is a big deal. Doesn't really help New York Nutbusters' chances. But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty exciting. It's kind of too early to call it. No team has actually locked any place yet, so we're not at the point where I can start highlighting shit green. Snarkify versus SKT is actually tomorrow, so that's a series to definitely tune in for. That has a lot of consequences. If SKT is able to make that a W for them, I think that's such a huge deal. NYMB obviously still has tiebreaker over them, which is something that really matters. Looking at season 11, I think they also have tiebreaker over some other teams.
I feel like it's going to come down to SKT or Alberts with the momentum that Nutbusters has kind of grabbed recently. But critically, Alberts does have the head-to-head over SKT
and NYNB, so they win either tiebreaker if it's a 2-team. And the fact that they still have 2 series left to play, I think, puts them in a bit of an advantage over New York Nutbusters, because New York Nutbusters is almost in the same position as them, except they've already lost one of those remaining
Oh
two
yeah,
series.
yeah.
Skaven's in an even worse position, but there's definitely a world where all three of these teams could end up 4-4. Then I think it gets interesting and it kind of goes down into the game differential thing. New York Nutbusters is -1, Albert's Infernos is at 0, and SKT's at -4, but they would need to win both of their remaining series to get up, so that would help them a little bit. And obviously that actually wouldn't be the tiebreaker. It would go down to what the records were between those two teams. And I don't remember off the top of my head if they were 2-1s or 2-0s, the series that Inferno wins. But if it does end up being a three-way tie, Inferno would just win because they beat both of those teams.
I really hope Alberts makes it to playoffs. I mean, I like all of these teams. I'd like them all to make it to playoffs, but Alberts has been that team that I think
if they tie for anything, they make it. So there's only 8 scenarios out of 256 in which they don't qualify. So I think they need to lose everything, and SKT and NYB would need to win everything. But
what are the Kalshi odds on that, Dean? Give me in on that one. Actually, take it to the bank.
I hate you. Do not say that. We can look at the 8 possibilities though, because it's these. So yeah, PT would need to win. SKT would need to beat. Yeah, so Inferno needs to lose both. SKT and NYV need to win everything. And actually nothing else matters because it's just SR games. So if that happens, then Inferno would be out. So that is 5 series that need to go a certain way. But I don't think SKT beating Metabusters is that crazy. I don't think New York Nutbusters beating Metabusters is that crazy. Obviously, I think Metabusters is a little favored, but I don't think it's something unheard of.
Dean, for logistics sake, so we all understand, does SR just have 2 weeks to get 4 series in?
Yep.
So, I mean, is there any danger of a potential F to FF or something?
Yeah, I believe they didn't have availability when the week that they were supposed to play 1T. So if they can't schedule the 1T game, that would be a win for 1T. I don't really remember how everything else works out, but I would say, considering their lack of availability in the early season, if they're not able to schedule a series and it really comes down to it being their fault, I think that would be an FF for whichever series they weren't able to schedule. But
that would be a bummer because
to be clear,
you want to see the undefeated season be contested, though.
To be clear, they are playing SKT this week, so they have 2 weeks left to get 3 games in, not 4. Okay. So that's a lot more doable.
Yeah.
And I believe Metabusters isn't going to be able to play a series next week, so they're also going to have to get 2 series in the last week. So maybe SR will get 2 in this first week because it leaves some more opponents open. But we'll see. I think we'll get it done. I'm not super concerned about it, but I think we're a little over time on this anyway. But I don't know. Exciting series. The fact that the race for playoffs is not decided and it's still between 3 teams is interesting. It seems like it's probably going to come down to NYNB and SKT. But Inferno has really tough opponents, so if they're able to drop both and everyone else wins everything, it's a big deal. But my conclusion there is please tune into the series tomorrow, because if SKT drops, then that guarantees Inferno their place in playoffs. I don't think it eliminates.
They could still catch Nutbusters though, right?
I don't know actually, because they're down a series. So if they lose and they're 2-5. Yeah, the best they could do is tie. So I think SKT's playoff chances actually do depend on this series tomorrow.
Okay, that's going to be a hype one.
I just figured that out. That's so exciting.
Make sure you tune in, everybody.
If SKT beats Metabusters and New York Nutbusters drops, then they're both tied 3-5. And that would be it. Because New York Nutbusters has the head-to-head. That NYNB versus SKT and NYNB versus QC were very impactful. I'm glad I got to watch them. But yeah, no, SKT is a winner go home series tomorrow, which I didn't realize.
I will say, unfortunately, I don't think we're getting the fated jungle matchup tomorrow. Like the all-time greatest jungle matchup in the server. Mason. Yes, Safari Mason is what the streets would say. But either way, that series is going to be a absolute banger, I bet.
I mean, I think Apari versus Hero might honestly be more fun. We'll see.
Maybe. I hope we get to see some really strong solo lane play out of SKT. Yeah. I think Tuxedo's been so good for them. And I thought the last couple weeks looked a little rough, but they've had some really good mid lane performances this season, and you're going to need that going up against Sandy. So I hope that if it's game case or if it's Lithy, that they kind of bring their A game, because I think if that happens, then we could be setting up for a pretty fun one.
Yeah, and we've honestly yet to see Kage get super hard punished. So if Tuxedo is able to show up and do that, I would love to see it. But
I think that might be a myth, Dean. At this point, I think it's a myth. I don't know if it's possible.
yeah, we'll see. Anyway, I'm going to end it.
Someone's going to figure it out.
Yeah, well, I actually will probably try and cast that series. I didn't realize it was such high stakes, but we'll see. I think Apari thrives when he's doubted, so I'm going to say that I'm going to predict the series. At 2-0 Snarkify, Apari's going to get throttled. There's no way he's going to do anything.
2-0 sub 20 minutes.
Yeah, totally. They're both sub 10-minute games. For the sake of my voice, obviously.
The interview will go crazy after they win. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been fun.
Yep. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. We will get to see the winners of the host and co-host after this week. So either I'll have to get Mason on the podcast with the full white screen, bright light the entire time, or we'll just have to bribe you to put your cat up here. If you guys vote go-kart, that's not happening. I can't fit a go-kart in this room, but I will wear the Fizz onesie if you vote for that.
You can take a camera outside though.
That's true, but that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't be a real episode. I do something else with go-karts. But
okay.
But yeah, so 50-50 chance I'm in the Fizz onesie. I'm excited for the food though. Lots of good sandwiches left. I'm happy with whatever wins. But anyway, thanks all for watching. Sorry this one ran a little long, but it was overdue. We covered like 10 series. Yeah. Schedules should be out soon. I know only a few teams have gotten their avail in. I believe Rift Sharks versus Inferno is going to be on Thursday, so keep your eyes tuned for that. But otherwise, watch the game tomorrow night. Banger. Might lock playoffs, might not. So I'm hype. Maybe I'll get a Gruer co-cast.
That could be fun. Maybe we can make that happen.
Hell yeah.
Let's do it.
See y'all.